G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Richard Fu from Outsourcing Angel based in Sydney, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Richard.
All right, excited to be here, mate.
Let's start with how we know each other. We both use the matchmaker.fm website. It's not the dating website. I guess it is, but for podcasts, not for romantic dating. You reached out and once you saw our cast.
Yeah, mate. So my team, I got to be honest, yes, they use my profile, but my team going around, surfing around, picking some awesome podcasts, and that's kind of like how I got connected, man.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, excited here, Troy, because we've gone through like a transformation. And so business I'm in is Outsourcing Angel. And basically what we do is we help set up the right processes, the right technology, the right people so that businesses can scale. And a lot more different than what we used to do, which was just purely known as a virtual assistant company. So we're in the midst of transforming that to become more than just a virtual assistant company.
Great. So helping, because a lot of businesses don't have their standard operating procedures or operations manual or even good systems set up. So you're having more of a focus on that as well as the virtual assistants.
Yeah, so we go forward. So it's not like some people fall into the trap, right? Try like, hey, I just need a virtual assistant or I just need someone to do something. And then we go in deep and we go, have you got the processes set up? Have you streamlined your process so that you automate as much as you can? So then the more important stuff should be done by people. And people are like, no, what are you talking about? And so we created this whole new, branch of services called, Systemize and Scale Up, which is about what if we could go into your business, Troy, pick up key processes in your delivery so that then we automate as much as we can, we simplify it, we streamline it, we put in the right tools in place. Like if you're using an unoptimized CRM, maybe we use a better one that's more suited in your budget. And then we build the processes around that and document it so that then we can get a virtual assistant or you can have your team trained up on how to use the new processes so it's more effective and efficient.
That's great. Much needed. And how did you start out?
Back in the day, I just grew up in the suburbs, right, of Sydney, and my parents were refugees from the Vietnam War. So a lot of the time it was just survival. So it's just like, go get a university degree, get a better job than what we have, and then just look after yourself. And that's pretty much all I was set on, Troy, for a long time. Finished university, did a business degree, did an IT degree, because I'm like every other kid out there not knowing what the hell to do. And then I went and applied for an internship at KPMG, like one of the big 4 consulting firms around the world. Luckily got placed in there, then got a graduate position, and then ended up joining their management consulting team, right? And in there, I thought, hey man, I just want to be a partner in KPMG, and that's a whole dream. Move to Switzerland one day, go skiing in the weekends, and then come to work, that type of stuff. But then 6 months in, Troy, I was like, this is weird. This is not what I want. Because I was looking at this other guy on the other side, and he must have been like mid-50s. He's grinding it. He's like working to midnight, comes in at 7 a.m. the next day. And I'm like, is this what it means? And this guy wasn't even partner. He was like, I think a director or something like that. And I'm like, that's like 2 steps away from partner. I'm like, what? Got to do that to get where I want to? That's not what makes sense for me. And on top of that, I was going out helping clients, all these big multinational companies helping fire thousands of people and make squillions of dollars. I'm like, I'm not helping anyone here in this world doing what I'm doing. And so I went down this whole rabbit hole path of like, what do I want to do? So I ended up falling into the whole personal development train. I'm sure you know these guys, right, Troy? I started learning from people like T. Harv Eker, Tony Robbins, went to all the success resources seminars, and I paid thousands, right, to go do all this training. And Troy, I was realized they kept selling this dream of, you should just be like us, help other people, coach them, that type of stuff. You don't need certifications. And I'm like, cool, what if I become like Asian Tony Robbins, right? Learn how to like Tony. Right? I did all of that. I started like a men's like confidence coaching business on the side while I'm still working at KPMG. And eventually it got big enough, and I started podcasts as well, just like yourself, Troy. Got some awesome guests on like John DeMartini, Commando Steve from The Biggest Loser, and all this other stuff. Then I left my job after being in that corporate space for about 6 to 8 years, right? Changing some jobs as well. I decided to go all in on this business. And I was so dead serious, right, Troy, about Asian Tony Robbins. I'm like, I'm going to bring this over to Asia, right? I left Sydney, where I was born and raised, to go to Singapore, where I have no connections aside from these mentors I had. And I'm like, let's go into Asia and let's see. But little did I realize, mate, Asia wasn't ready for Asian Tony Robbins yet. But in that point, that's when I pivoted. And I spoke to a guy on my podcast. His name was Dan Priestley. So he wrote Personal Influence.
I've read that.
And yeah, it's a great book. And I was like interviewing him, and I'm like, damn, what makes an amazing entrepreneur? And he said to me, Richard, an amazing entrepreneur is not the one in the spotlight or chasing the spotlight. It's the one that controls the spotlight and shines it on other people in their team. And like, no joke, Troy, I'm like, boom, something went off in my head. I'm like, wait, that's me. What if I'm a better supporting actor than a best lead? I was like, what if I'm number 4, number 10, number 20 instead of number 1 on that end? And then that's when I started going more into this whole supporting act of, I started my own VA agency, right, to help build this management consulting side, where it's like I would build the processes for you. Hire me, I manage your VA, I train your VA, and you talk to me and I tell you the VA what to do for you. So we started doing that, realized it was good, but I sucked at sales and marketing. And so I started partnering up with people to do other things and ran other businesses. And then after 2 years, came back to Sydney, and then I reached out to Lynn, and I was like, Lynn, I'm tired. I see you do some VA work. I love VAs. I love the freedom thing. I love that you're a remote company. And I'm like, I don't want to start another business anymore. I'm tired. I just want to be the best number 2 and shine the light on someone else that I believe in and that has an amazing vision. And that's how we started connecting there. We did try to do some work a few years back, but then, I ended up joining Lynn's company at Outsourcing Angel as pretty much like operations manager. I remember she said, I don't have any money or any idea of what you're going to do, Richard, but I know you're good stuff. And I said to Lynn, okay, if you don't know what you want me to do, I'm going to do this for you, Lynn. I'm going to create your dream, the business that runs without you. That's what I'm going to go do. Okay. She's like, oh, I didn't even know that was my dream. I'm like, you forgot that was your dream. A business that goes in to start it, but they forget because they get stuck in it. And then within the 2 years of working there, we're able to systemize her out of the operations. Then she only went out and did the stuff that she loved, which was networking, BD work, and interviews and all those things. And that's what she gets to do now. And now it's about 5 years down the road on that end. Now I'm managing director of the company here. Lynn's still here as CEO, and she still gets some of the BD stuff, predominantly mostly that on that end there. That's my journey.
Have you read where he talks about visionary and integrator?
I don't, but I know the terms quite well. You're talking the guy who created the EOS system, right?
Yeah, it's Rocket Fuel is the name of the book, and his concept there. So it's another level on top of the E-Myth, for example. He talks about the understanding if you're a visionary or an integrator. It sounds like Lynn's the visionary and you're the integrator.
Exactly. And, I always sum it up even easier, right? It's like there's the fluffy person and then there's the person who just gets down dirty and gets stuff done.
Gets the shit done, yeah.
Yeah, and then you need both because the visionary comes up with those new ideas. The implementer looks at it and goes, we can do that one. No, we can't do that one. We can actually maybe try this one.
Yeah.
That's what I realized for myself. And that's what I think Lynn realized for herself too. She thought she was an integrator. She built the whole business as well as she did. But then it wasn't until she stepped back that she realized, actually, I'm wearing a false mask. I'm pretending I'm a great integrator when I'm actually an even better visionary on that end.
So what year did Lynn start the business? And did you say you came into the business about 5 years ago?
Yeah, so Lynn started the business, it was an offshoot of another business called Red and Black Solutions, which was more of a marketing agency. And then she started realizing people like, hey, can you just help me hire a VA? That started in about 2015, right, on that end. And then I joined at about, 2018, late 2018. But she had already been running it for about 2 to 3 years by then. And then she was doing well. Right. She was doing great on that end. She got to that. We talk about her story in phases. Phase 1 was growing it from 0 to 1 to 10. And then what happened was she got stuck at that, let's say 10. And she didn't know how to take it from 10 to 100 on that end because she had built all these bottlenecks inside the business without her actually knowing on that end. And then that's when I came in. I'm like, Lynn, you got to stop wrangling and having this sense of control within yourself to limit the team to just come to you to ask for decision making. We need to train them up so then they make these decisions and you have freedom to go do more important stuff.
Absolutely. And do you know how old Lynn was then in 2015, 8 years ago when she started the business up?
This year she's turning 40. She'll probably kill me, right? For calling that out.
It's always hard asking people's age. There's only been 1 or 2 people that didn't want to give me their age. It's just good for context for people know and understand when they jumped from a safe corporate job or whatever.
Yeah, so for her, she's 40 this year. So Outsourcing Angel would have been I think, what is it?
8 years ago, so 32.
32?
Yeah.
Your math seems better than mine, Troy.
You have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the 8 years.
Yeah, mate. Well, when we talked to Lynn about her story, I know at the start, it was basically her and a few freelancers. We were talking probably 5 or less. And typically they were all assigned to that marketing agency first. And then it slowly expanded because she slowly shut down that agency and then moved them across. And so by the time I joined, I was probably the second or third local person in Australia. Aside from that, she had just basically virtual assistants either in Indonesia or the Philippines on that end there. And then that size team was probably, I think I'd say about 7 full-time internal ones, ignoring the ones that are assigned on client duties. And then now we've expanded that to about 20 full-timers and about a handful of part-timers as well, working internally in Outsourcing Angel.
So what, 25 full-time equivalents?
Yeah, roughly something like that. That are just working on internal work on
Yeah.
our side here, not assigned to client.
That's
What
great.
side?
Yeah, terrific growth. It sounds like from about 3 FTE 8 years ago to now 25. That's amazing growth. Well done to you both.
Yeah, and look, like we're probably operating on a very small scale too, because the whole leverage you can get with hiring virtually on that end there.
Yeah. Any other key numbers you can share?
I'm proud to say, this year we're going to be topping over $2 million on that end there, which is awesome for us because like pretty much it's been a battle, especially with the COVID, right,
Yep.
coming through and all that and all the challenges on that end there. And we're just super excited to continue growing the team and most of all, this transformation that we're going in the company as well.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I think the moment I felt I succeeded was when Lynn, in 2 years, she decided she was bored and she's like, how about I start up another company with some other friends on that end there? And then I'm like, what do you want to do with outsourcing? And she's like, yeah, Richard, you pretty much run it already. So just keep me informed on how things are going. But I'm going to go do this thing because I think there's a huge opportunity there. And that for me was a big sign of success. Granted, she's back in now because then we integrated those two companies together on that end there. But it was a sign of success that one, there was enough trust from Lynn for someone else to run the company versus was running it in control the whole time. And then two, that she felt that comfort there, that we were on a good path and that it was under the right leadership to go and extend from there.
And what does success look like to you?
For me, it's getting the team to a point where they excited by what we get to do. So when I first came in, Troy, they were very resistant to change. I'm like, we used to run on Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Skype, email. And I'm like, why is there 5 different channels to talk about the same thing, guys? Let's consolidate everything. For me, success looks like where the team can start taking on more, making the right decisions for the business and looking to the business owner or the executive team as more of guides rather than, hey, I have to seek permission to do this stuff. Like that to me looks like success where they get excited to then start owning and being responsible for specific areas of their functions. Yeah, that's all I really want to do here is just enable people to go do more of, the stuff that they're really great at.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
The number one way to market a fast-growing business is to continually keep pushing yourself to go out there and connect with more people. Because at the end of the day, you can run as many ads as you want, but word of mouth is also super powerful on that end there. And I know it can be hard when you're in it doing everything and you're like, I got no time to go to this networking event and all of this. But what if you met a friend there that then has a partner that has someone else who can connect with someone powerful that can help you down the line. And you just never know. That's why I love doing these podcast things too. Who knows, right? Someone listens to this podcast or Troy knows someone and then leads on to something else. And it's just an amazing game on that end.
And how was the business funded?
Bootstrap, mate. Pure bootstrap. So it was every time we made some sales, we put that money back in to go and run the business on that end and keep things rolling. There were obviously grants. So like during COVID, there was JobKeeper on that end. We've had to make some tough stuff there to the point where I remember, Troy, it was like there was 4 Australian people, including Lynn, and we were getting hamstrung, right? Like at the start of lockdowns, everyone was scared. Everyone's canceling everything. And we had to make a choice. It was either we lose someone, we have to fire someone, or we just have to making losses and maybe the company won't make it. And I remember I said to the team, I'm like, how about we did this? What if we all took a pay cut?
Yep.
And I personally took a 20% pay cut for almost like, what was it? I think at least a year and a half on that end, so that then everyone could still have a job because we all wanted to be here. And that was the difference here. When we have that makes a whole difference on that end there. So yeah, we survived through with JobKeeper, as well as just this year we got approval and we just got paid out for the growth roadmap, right? So the entrepreneurs program that's now axed, EMDG as well, the export marketers grant as well. But that's only been this year. So otherwise it's been bootstrapped the whole time.
EMDG is good. It's 40, 80 or 150 grand a year matched, obviously, but depending on what tier you're in, it's an awesome grant.
Oh man, they've changed it now, Troy, man. They've lessened it. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. So like when we applied for it last year, we only got about, what was it? It was like, we were in tier 3, so the top end, and they were only giving out like, I think it was like 40K.
Right.
And because it depends on how many other companies are approved there as well. It's changed that as well, man.
And so you're not just working with businesses in Australia, you're targeting overseas as well?
Correct.
Yeah, great. And so no investors along the way?
No. We had been approached a few times by that end, but then in those instances, I've talked to them like, what do you really want to do? Like the only reason why we want to get investors in is if we need a cash injection, and to apply that cash injection to what? If we don't have a clear plan of what we want to do, then there's no point giving up equity, right? Just for money that sits there and is like, it's nice to have that money or that feather in the cap kind of thing.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course, then add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Honestly, I probably would. And the reason why I would is because I'm a really big believer into what we're here to do. Like, our mission is really just to create freedom at the end of the day. And I want to create freedom for the business owner, right? By helping them create a business that runs without them. I want the VAs to have freedom to work from home, work wherever they want, whatever times they find suitable. And I want our team to have freedom to have that flexibility to rock up to work and enjoy the environment that we have created here. And then look, it's on the edge of it. Like, you can look at it and look at AI and go, oh, but that's going to replace all these VAs and all of that. Yeah, some of them get replaced, the ones that are very focused on the menial things. But that's why we're now in the process of reviewing the AI tools that are available, working on a training plan of how do we understand how these tools work, and then train up the VA so that then we can have VAs that are powered by AI so they can do much more than the standard. Let's say if you go Upwork and find a freelancer VA who says they know stuff, but you never know either. So it just excites me, man, on where we're at.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Sure, you know this, right? The answer is pretty much, it's stressful all the time in a small business. And you think you got it good, right? And then something happens, a client gets upset, or some mad tax bill comes in and you're not ready for. And so I remember this, and I'll tell a different story, right? Because I remember there's one stressful point where me and Lynn weren't getting along on that end. And I remember this because I was trying to run the show, and I'm Lynn was very open to be Richard, just manage me. I don't know nothing either. And I'm trying to work it through. And I'm Lynn, I need you to do this. And it got to a point where she kind of got annoyed at that. She's like, who are you, Richard? You my boss? Because I don't remember you paying me on that end. And the tipping point was when she got really pissed off about me saying, I think you should email this client then because you know the client more. And then she shot me this Loom video. So a Loom is where you can record a video, right? And send it off. And she recorded this video giving me feedback. Just sent it to me on a Thursday morning because she gets up at 3 a.m. to go and do work. And then I log in at 7, I look at this, I'm like, what's this email and what's this Loom? And I watch it, and it was her giving me imagine performance review feedback, how she wasn't happy with this and this and this. And I was like, oh my God, what do we do here? How do I address this? And so I asked her for a meeting, and she comes in, she's smiling because she knows what she did, right? She sent a Loom video out with feedback that she's not happy. And I said, hey, Lynn, so I don't want to attack anyone here. Yeah, I just want to let you know. I just felt, I understand where you're coming from, but I also felt a little bit, what did I say exactly? A little bit disappointed that you chose to go down this route, because something like that would be a discussion. Yeah, it's kind of like F you when I send this Loom video saying you screwed up, Richard, I don't like you, F you right here. And it's because I don't get a chance to not have my word back, but explain how I came across, and so that then we can work together here. And I know, and look, I love this place, Lynn, I love the company, and I want us to have a good relationship here. And I want you to understand, I'm not doing it because I don't want to do that. I think it's the best thing for you to go do this, and this is why. And yeah, after that, it was a bit tense at the start, but then after that, it changed the whole relationship by me taking in that leap there.
Right. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
The area in the business that's had to work on a lot is, I don't know what you classify it. It's kind of like communication or more people management. And I think a lot of business owners just don't make that time there to really go deep down and understand their people, and not just understand them on what they do for work, but understand them as people and really care about them. And it's something that we try and work through here a lot, is to show the people that we work with is I'm going a lot out of my way to show that I care for you. And so a good example was one of our web and UX designer person. We just went away for our retreat, right? Our Australian team retreat. And it's just a chance for us to bond. And she's in my car and we're carpooling. And I said, hey, your boss, the marketing manager, told me something that you did. She lost her mind, right? She's like, oh my God, I'm in trouble, right? Because the managing director said, oh my God, I did something. And I'm like, do you remember what you did? And she's like, no, what? And she's racking her brain. And I said, you did this thing in a meeting where you actually stood up and shared your opinions and suggested that we move forward in a different direction than someone else in the team. And then that was backed up by the marketing manager. And she told me she was excited to hear you do that. And then this lady, she's just like, oh, but Richard, I don't even think it's a big deal. It's nothing really massive on that end. And I said, hey, it's a massive deal because I believe in the small things add up to the big things. And so I'm letting you know that we recognize when you and other people do small things in the right direction. And I want to let you know that I appreciate that a lot on that end there. And so, for me, it's a lot of time spent in people, but sometimes you spend it with the wrong people and then they leave, right? Or they're not actually end up being that great. In saying that, it's just a gamble in life on that end.
Yeah, it's very important. I think most team members, they hear the word feedback and it's a dirty word. They think it's negative. They're in trouble because most, particularly in small businesses, managers manage what I coined was managed by exception. You don't talk to a team member about something until they've fucked something up. And that's just the connotation of feedback, therefore, is just negative. So I'm not surprised by her reaction. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
This is the annoying thing for an operational person like me, or I'm just very systematic. So I'm like, let's build a system like this. And then when we grow very fast, things keep changing, need to be adapted. And I'm just the guy who thinks of this. I'm thinking of like business should just be boring. What I mean by boring is it should be predictable. This thing goes in, then this spits out money somehow on that end. But it keeps changing. And for me, the hardest thing is to accept that what I might have built a few years back is completely different now. Like all this whole AI stuff has shifted so much of what we're doing now that we have to adapt. Otherwise, we're just gonna be extinct in like 2 years or less on that end. But that's the most frustrating thing for me, but also the most exciting thing, which is two sides of the same coin.
Well, that's the next question. What do you love most about growing a small business?
Knowing that we can make a direct impact on the people that we serve, whether that is the client, whether that's the VA, whether that's people in our team, and giving them like real purpose on that end there. And I think that's a very special thing that only small businesses can experience, is having that almost direct impact and being able to see how your work actually affects someone else's life, someone else's family, someone else's community on that end. That's what I love most.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I want to talk about like Lynn's story, because I think that's a very interesting shift where she was so used to like being an entrepreneur. You go from 0 to 1, every decision is made by you and you're just shooting from the waist. You're going for it, you're going fast, you're going hard. And then it's hard once you start trying to establish an executive team to make those decisions for yourself. And I think that transition is really difficult there. And, we had to work a lot. I had to coach Lynn on the side. She has her own coaches as well, to then think about, hey, you hire these people, you want them to be able to go and make decisions for you. And if you keep coddling them, if you keep getting involved, if you keep circumventing them and going to their people directly, then it doesn't create what you want, which is then a system and a machine that works without you. You'll just keep getting yourself stuck, and she keeps getting herself stuck. And then we always come back to the question of, Lynn, who asked you to come in here? She's just like, I don't know, I just felt like I had to do it. I'm like, because you weren't patient enough to let someone else do it or guide them through to do it on that end. That's one of the biggest mindset shifts, I think.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Being willing to draw in accountability. It's very easy for a founder to get distracted and running off with other things, but then forget to keep other people accountable what they should be doing, because then those people think, oh, Troy's not looking at my stuff anyway, so whatever, man, if I don't do it, right? He doesn't ask about it. He told me once, and then 3 months down the track, you're like, hey, where's this at? And then it's like, oh, crap, Troy does look on that end, but by then it's so sporadic that it's not important. It's very easy to get sidetracked. And so like, I think it's just helping to draw that accountability with your team and keeping them accountable for what is agreed upon, which is always leading into like a confrontation or a difficult conversation if things aren't being met or things aren't getting delivered on that end, which is a whole other thing as well.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
I can't think of any really amazing ones, but I think it's more about the collaboration on that end. And we spend a lot of time trying to get people to collaborate together, and you can't get people like collaborating by just saying, just go talk to each other. It's a lot of back and forth in between. It's a lot of time invested to build those relationships, on top of that, to build that trust. And I think once you start seeing the team solving the problems without you in there, then that's the big wins for me to see that. That's really the most exciting things there. And then its flip side is difficulties is how to find the time to manage your team, to keep in touch with your team, to let them not know that you care about them, but feel that you care. And there's a big difference between knowing and feeling on that end there. That's one of the most difficult things, I think, as a founder on that end, is how do you dedicate that time? Because from our end, we're trying to meet these, like there's a whole 6 human needs by Tony Robbins and stuff like that there, that we try and integrate a fair bit into the work, not consciously all the time, but in those spaces there so that people just, I basically want to create a system here where people love the company, people love working with me so much that, man, like Troy, I want it so that you work with us. It's leaving me and the team here is worse than getting divorced. That's how I want to create it on that end there.
And what about adding people, like hiring people? Any advice there for the audience? Because you've gone growth over 8 years up to 25 full-time equivalents now.
Well, are we the greatest at hiring and recruiting? Look, even though we were a recruiting firm, no, right? Like, we get it wrong too. Why? Because I don't think there's a very easy way to crack that screening process. And the only real screening is once you get that person in, that first 3 months in, and really seeing how they go on that end there. So like for us, when it comes to, I guess, recruiting, what we're trialing out now is creating this thing that's called job scorecard on that end there. And I think a lot of it is also nailing down your core values on your business. So we had core values, but they were very fluffy, very unclear, and only recently we were able to refine them into exactly much more of what we want. And it's about defining if that person has the core values in your business. And we're still trying to work out how we just test those things in the interview process. But I think what we get most people to do, it's all trainable, it's all learnable. And it's just, there is some technical level there, but not much. And it's about their core values and do they sync up with us? Do they love this place as much as the next person in there? And that's who we're trying to focus on there. If it comes up between like someone who's doing really great, smashing it, but they're toxic as crap in your company. And so I had to let people like that go because we realized actually they're not really aligned. And it's always a weird gut feeling, but then now that we have the core values lined out, it's much more easier for us to see that this is why they're not feeling so great when we talk to them or whatever.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
We do a few things here remotely. So we have this whole karma point system and we try and create recognition. So in a remote world, it's not easy, right? You don't get the chance to walk past Bob and go, Bob, you did really great on that thing. We created this whole Slack form where you fill in and you nominate someone and you give them karma point on that end for saying, hey, Bob, thanks so much for helping me with this client, You're really aligned with being courageous because one of our core values is, you stepped up when you didn't have to on that end there. And then we assign points. Then those points are used to, like other gamified employee things. We can then cash it out to go buy stuff on that end. So we do that. Another thing we do is we do clearing. So like this is something that came from the entrepreneurs organization that myself and Lynn are in, is before every meeting, we try and do a clearing round. Whereas like anyone got any problems with anyone in here so that we can handle any misunderstandings real quickly. And then we also go into recognition further on actually one of the things we do on our weekly team meetings is after that meeting, which is maybe about an hour and a half, is spent playing like get to know you type of games. And we realize this is important because we keep doing the business stuff all the time and then the team doesn't get, especially when you work remotely, don't have that opportunity to be like, hey, I saw Bob's got a cat and he does this and he loves all these things. So we get the facilitator, the host, to play a little game at the start. And then I've had multiple feedbacks from the teams like, that's my favorite part of the whole meeting. I don't really care about seeing the financials and stuff like that. I like that part more. And so we still incorporate that there to then help people bond and get together.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
How to handle balance, man. It's all about boundary setting, to be honest, on that end there for me. So like we draw up boundaries for myself. Now because it's winter, I get up and get in at 7 o'clock, work, and then about 4 or 5 o'clock I log off, and then I don't attend to those messages there on that end. And I think work-life balance need to be circled around those things there. And you don't draw up your own boundaries and you keep letting people, can I grab you real quick for this here and there? That's how come people become run down on that end and burnt out. And so for me, it's a lot about boundary setting, but within flexibility too. Like if someone's in dire need, I'll be like, okay, cool, what's happening? How can I help?
How much professional development have you invested in yourself? Sounds like a shitload.
Oh man, I forgot the figure now, right? Because there's courses, and each of those courses you're talking $5,000 to $10,000, and then I probably did, I'd say around, I reckon 60 to about 80, maybe even 100,000, right? In that plus coaching, plus mentors, those types of things, and traveling, right, to go to some of these conferences because they're not always in Australia on that end. Somewhere, I reckon, in that ballpark.
Yeah, great. And anything else on coaches or mentors?
You always have to consider how much do you value your own personal development. And I remember when I was in working corporate and I was so desperate, man. I was so desperate to figure out how I can get out and do something, right? But I was very risk adverse. And so I'm like, the business, the side gig's got to earn, if not the same amount on a regular basis. And then, but at the same time, I remember I had to take the dive and I needed that extra help. And so I ran the first coach I hired was I think that was $300 a month for a call every 1 or 2 weeks on that end, to the point where I realized with this coach, I've been with them for like, I think it was like 2 years or something. And I'm like, we got started with stuff, but we can't take it to the next level. We have to pay for more for that next level. And I remember, and Lynn still laughs at me at this, right? Because she's like, why would you pay so much? I remember I paid this other guy, another coach, $3,000 a month for, I think it was like 2 calls, right? And she's like, what's wrong with you? Why would you pay so much? I'm like, Lynn, like, I knew no one else who had a clear process to build a system and the business in a way that could help me get out. And so I worked with this guy, and it was the best money I spent. Even the mentors I had in Singapore, they're the ones that actually pushed me to take that leap, on that end, to leave the corporate job and go run this whole my own on that end there. First few months wasn't great because I was like, oh, what the hell? It's the universe thing, right, Troy? You jump out and then God or the universe tests you. It's like, oh, you think you can handle this? How about I don't give you clients, right, for the next 6 months, see how you feel like that, and whether you jump back into the corporate world or not, and then see if you really want this. And so I have big love for coaches and mentors if you find the right ones that help you guide you along the way.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, we do not have that.
All right, Richard, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Hardest thing is when you're being faced with, especially when you have a team, and let's say it hasn't been a great few months of cash flow, and you have to look at it and you go, do I sack someone or do I take a hit here, right? And then making that decision all the time is like some of the hardest parts here. And I think that's the part that I really don't like, and I don't wish anyone to have to go through.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
This one's not really a business book, but it's a book that I always think about often is Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. Not the why one, not start with why, but this one I think is such a pivotal book. Any leader who wants to lead a team that wants to stay on with you and wants to be in the game with you for the long term.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I don't listen to as many podcasts here, but I do listen to the few of Simon Sinek's podcast is great. Adam Grant as well, right? So he's the organizational design guy there. He's really fantastic and very thoughtful. And then you like the whole hype and get kicked up the butt. I always like Gary Vee on that end too.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A CRM, getting started with a CRM, no matter how small you are, even if it's just you, it's great to get that stuff out of your head and out of your inbox of trying to manage, hey, who do I have to follow up with? And you can get started with a free one like HubSpot, absolutely free. We're still using it. They actually called me up and said, hey, you're using the free for so long. How about you upgrade on that? And like, yeah, I'll think about it. Yeah, a CRM is great so that you just free up your mind more of the deals you got to keep track of and where to follow up on those ends there.
Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Are you sure about that? No, I'd just be I'd say, is this an area that you're a genius at? Because a lot of times I thought I was a genius at speaking on the stage. I thought I was a genius in being a coach. I thought I was this. And it's not until I actually really tapped in more to my genius, then I'm like, this is me. This is how I am. Now I know what I can do on that end versus pretending to be something else, right? Pretending what the market tells you they want you to be on that end.
Great. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Richard. I really enjoyed our chat. Congratulations to you and Lynn and the team, growing from 3 to 25 team members in the last 8 years, helping a lot of businesses out there with not just virtual assistants, but setting up the right systems and standard operating procedures.
Thanks, Troy, man. Excited to be here, man. And so, yeah, hopefully, listeners got some good value out of it.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.